Warning: bad or taboo language.
But
Ah, there you go.
okay, we are now recording for our
What
one.
did we say?
I'll tell you, right. Two dickheads talking shite.
Two dickheads talking shite.
Two
That's a
dickheads talking shite to nobody at all because one dickhead, me, forgot to record it.
no, I think the problem being is because I'm hosting and you went to record. So I think that's the catch. Because you've just had to ask me to approve to record, haven't you? Whereas I didn't get that. But saying that, I didn't get that message last time either. So
Well, I
yeah,
don't
sorry.
remember it. Maybe they changed it. Maybe they
It
didn't
is you.
update.
You completely fucked it up there, Steve.
Yeah, sorry.
Um,
Yeah, and
it
we.
was a good chat anyway. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
If you want to know
You'll
what
have
we
to,
talked about,
you'll have to meditate deeply for about 30 minutes and let the answers come to you. And we'll see you next week. Yeah.
yeah, goodbye. So for
Goodbye.
episode, so for episode three of the Woo Woo Weirdo Club, we
It's
start with an admission and a failure.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
interesting.
which is interesting. Yeah.
Um, so
If you're not failing, you're not trying. That's the thing. All
yeah,
masters have failed more times than they've. No,
well,
you
there's that
thought.
Michael Jordan quote, isn't there? That gets trotted out. Like I wouldn't be able to quote it exactly, but it's something like I've missed more than a million free throw attempts. I've done, and like the way he puts it is if you actually looked at his if you didn't look at his success and you looked at his failures that he had to go through to get to the success,
Yeah,
he's kind of objectively a failure, but he kept going. So
yeah.
it's a lesson.
It is a lesson. It's all a lesson. It's all a lesson. And that's why we're here. I mean, we were talking about why we're here, weren't we? And how it's potentially pointless being here because we're just a little blink of an eye in the existence of everything. So that we did touch on that, but it's a lesson, isn't it? Life is a lesson, not just for us, but everybody around us as well. Yeah.
So should we sort of start again? I'm Stephen Bate,
Oh yeah.
and you're
Okay.
Matt Totman,
And I'm a boon.
and you're a boom because your
I'm
name
a boon.
your name means wouldn't it be
Matthew
interesting?
is a gift of God. Yeah. But the reason why my name is a gift of God, because my mum at the time was a Christian. My dad wasn't a Christian, but they were trying for a kid and they didn't get a kid. And then they prayed for a kid and then I turned up. So, and I just finished reading the Mahabharata, whatever it's called. Can never say the name of the word, but the Bhagavad Gita, the big version, um,
The big dude.
the big one with Arjuna and Bhima
Do you
and
know what?
Vishnu.
I'm getting massive deja vu.
What's that? What's
I
that?
feel like I've been here before. Huge deja vu.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah,
whether
so I'm a
that's
boon. I'm a gift from God, quite literally.
you're
And my mum.
a math few.
Phew, phew. We got the kid. We got the kid. And I
Right,
always thought it
so
was supposed to be a girl.
you were meant to be a girl.
Yeah. Well, I think my mum hoped I was going to be a girl because she had two boys already. But
What would have been your girl's name?
I don't know. I know my brother's girl's name, strangely. Sean would have been called Alexandra.
Yeah, I would have been called Emma.
Emma. Oh, there you go. There you go.
And then my brother who's younger, who's Stuart, sorry, Stu, would have been called Stephanie because he would have had Stephen and Stephanie.
There you go.
We were
And then
talking about Stephanie as
then we're
well
talking about
offline
Stephanie
before, yeah, the
as well.
failed video
As
call
well.
recording, but we won't breach her confidentiality or the GDPR by saying
No,
anything about her, even though
no.
our brothers are fair game.
Yeah,
Um,
brother, definitely fair game. Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
So,
so to explain for the people who didn't hear the two dickheads talking shite for 40 minutes and not recording it because one of the dickheads is a total dickhead. Um, this is episode three of the Woo Woo Weirdo Club. Once again, we are a podcast without portfolio, which I've just thought
yeah,
might be a nice strapline instead of dickheads talking shite, but maybe both could work.
we
Um,
can alternate. Yeah,
pardon?
we can alternate.
Yeah, that's true. Like the logo. Um, And we touched on a number of topics, didn't we? Just gone. And one of those was the origin of your name and
Hmm.
Matthew, and that led into you being relieved that you were wanted, but connecting later on in the chat that wasn't recorded to that yes, we're here for a blink of an eye in the bigger picture of the infinite universe or multiverse, and that therefore you might take the view that what we're doing here is irrelevant completely because it's like not even a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a micro millisecond, whatever. But
Yeah.
we all came here for a reason,
Yeah. We all chose to be here, didn't we?
and we chose our parents as
If you're, yeah, and we chose our parents, we chose our families. Again, like we said, we potentially chose each other at some point in a previous. We chose our partners, whether they be short term or long term. Um, it's quite interesting when you think of life like that. Like you said, when you get triggered and rubbed up the wrong way by somebody in your life, and it's like when you're able to go, okay, what's the
why they're
lesson?
here.
What's
What's
the
the
lesson?
lesson?
Yeah, what's the lesson?
Oh, so we didn't talk about this, but I had this yesterday.
This is good. We can have a whole new conversation, Steve. That's a good thing because I can't really
Rather
talk
than
about either. I'm sitting there going, "What did we talk about?" And I'm like, "It's gone." I'm glad you got a good memory.
can't review
You're
the can't,
recapping, you're
yeah.
summarizing, but I'm just like, "Boo!" It's a
I think
blank
we're
page
talking,
now.
weren't you? So I was I was driving yesterday. Driving conditions were not as bad as they normally are in this neck of the woods, but they
Mm,
were still quite challenging around certain parts. And I mean, quality of driving has generally diminished, I believe, over the years because there's more cars on the road. And I was sort of crawling along in traffic, and I was looking at people and making the judgments that you do. And at one point, somebody did something. Oh, that's it. They took the piss, and like if there's somebody filtering in to a lane, generally in this country, the unwritten rule is one car in at a time.
hmm
And everybody sort of knows that. Nobody says it, but everybody knows it, and that's what you do. So I hang back and I let one guy, one car in. Probably was a guy. And then somebody, though, decided to go right to the end and around and take the piss by sneaking in. And so I was like, I saw this. It's like you, and then there were some judgments around it and about the person who was um, driving it. I'm not going to share those judgments. And then
What
I'm
did
sat in
what
the
did it go on?
pardon?
Go on, carry on.
No, I'm not going to. But then let's just say there were quite strong judgments that flashed in, and this is the point. And then driving by them like this. And I'm then thinking all these judgy thoughts, all these thoughts going through and like negative and like and some language and all. And then I just like went, whoa, who's actually thinking this?
Mm,
Because to be honest, I don't really care that much. Yes, he's kind of broken an unwritten rule of English driving, but I haven't lost anything. He's cost me 10 seconds of time. So what? Like, who's thinking this? And why am I thinking this? What is going on? I don't want to think like this. Like, quite horrible thoughts in a way. And it's like, whoa, take a minute, just have a breathe. Let's just clear the energy. So I was just like sat in my car, the little mantra that I have,
hmm
like immediately calm down. And so then it's like, right, who's doing the thinking here? And it's something from the yogic tradition, isn't it? Of course.
mm,
And I'm like, who's the thinker? So you then become this observer observing the thoughts. And I'm like, when I started doing that, it's like, why? Whose thought is that? I don't think that's Stephen Bates' thought because Stephen
mm.
Bates does not think like that, really. And again, I'm not going to share the thought itself because
No,
it's quite, it could be
yeah.
considered to be quite offensive.
Mm,
And I was a bit upset by the thought. But then I started observing, it's like, I don't even know whether that's my thought. Or we'll call it Stephen Bates' thought. So no, it wasn't. And then you're thinking, oh my God, are we into like, I've got people surrounding me everywhere. in cars because it's not moving. I'm thinking, it's not even like, am I picking up on somebody else's thought? Is it sort of
Hmm.
telepathic? Am I picking up on the energy? Because everybody's trying to get somewhere and nobody's going anywhere fast. And okay, we tolerate these little rules of the road, but really, we don't want anybody else to be on the road. We just want to drive to where we're going and sod the rest of you. So then it's like, have I picked up on the energy? And then I thought, why? Then we bring it back to one of the things we did talk about, like spirituality is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness is key, one of your points. Spirituality is self-awareness, one of the points from that podcast. And it's like the minute that I got out of my own head, and I'm going to put it in those terms, and observed and thought, that's not even my thought.
That's not me. Yeah.
That I don't know what that is.
Mm.
Why do I need to think that? Why would that thought exist? Why do I need that thought?
Yeah. Is
Is
it
that making
isolated?
sense?
Is it isolated to instances like that? Because you could expand on that and say, well, what thoughts are your thoughts? Are any of them your thoughts? You know?
Generally speaking, no. I mean,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I don't go through life thinking similar thoughts to what I thought there.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
probably the circumstances, probably the energy caused by everybody being in a traffic jam and everybody being pissed off. I mean, this is the Woo Woo Weirdo Club, so let's go full woo here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No,
coll-
if you believe in the collective consciousness, then we are all tapped into the vast ocean of consciousness. That means that we can tap into and receive
and out
coming
of.
and goings will be thoughts and ideas and everything just flying around everywhere, isn't it? You know, so also, you know, I've had like random thoughts that are like, you know, walking down the road and just like, wouldn't it be funny to punch that person in the face and walk on, like, you know, and it's like, well, that's not me.
I'm glad. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, so where the fuck does that come from?
I know.
It's not me, and it's somebody else thinking that about me. Is that what it is? Or you just pick up on that somebody passing somewhere else? It could be somebody on the other side of the planet thinking that. You know, it's just like when you start to observe, and like you said, observe the thoughts. If you're observing the thoughts, and the thoughts can't be you because what's doing the observing, and it's yeah, I love that. I love that kind of thing. And then that's a good example of telepathy being more common than what we think because we're potentially already thinking other people's thoughts without any control, though. That's the problem. Without any control, they're just flying around here, there, and
Mm.
everywhere. But you know,
But that was
it's
like I feel like that was a little bit of a paradigm shift for me. And I
mm,
know that I've been like working on myself and all of that, and we do some quite serious yoga practice, and
mm,
there's a lot of this stuff that comes out of the yoga practices that we both do and that you lead. Um, but that's one of the first examples, a clear example of this observing that becoming the observer.
yeah, yeah,
So it's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, and I did want to talk about it earlier, but it just didn't happen, and maybe
mm,
that's why I didn't record.
maybe
But
because it needed
anyway.
to come out now.
Well, it's right. So I want to just pick up on a couple of things there because I'm not shy about saying I've been through talk therapy in the recent past, and that was tremendously helpful. Absolutely glad I did it. Actually, it made
Mm,
me better and stronger. And but I explored the concept of I get some quite violent thoughts sometimes,
mm,
and like, and I asked, is it normal? And the answer was, yeah, it's actually pretty normal. So
yeah,
I'm glad that I've heard from you that you
mm,
also get some violent thoughts sometimes.
yeah, mm,
But then now, I'm now thinking they're probably not my thoughts.
no, no,
Like the talk therapist would say to me, "Don't be so stupid," probably. But
mm.
we are on a Woo Woo Weirdo Club
We
podcast.
are on the Weirdo Club. And I read The Cosmic Serpent is a book I read once, and like they were talking about the shaman in South America and stuff and ayahuasca and how did they know that it was the plant? How did they know the concoction of plants? So there's five medicines in
Mm.
ayahuasca that they combine in a certain way and a certain procedure and how to make it and bake it and stuff like that. And like, you know, when asked how did they know? And it's like, well, the tree told us.
Yep.
And we did touch on this in the last video that wasn't recorded.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
going back to what you were talking about. But yeah, the tree told us, and I think I mentioned it in the first introduction. We've just had so many conversations, it's hard to know where everything is. But there's a Nigerian guy that's invented this engine that picks up energy from the ether, basically. He calls it radio waves, probably to be less woo, but it picks up energy from the ether and it can power a car for like 12,000 miles or something, and like a Tesla charge your house as well, whatever it does. Um, when he was asked, and this is what like it's happening now, he's just got a deal in China to produce the cars and they've gone on sale. But when he was asked, because he's dropped out of school, no qualifications, he's not an engineer, he's not anything, but he was asked, where does the information come from? And he said, I just wake up in the night and the information's here. I just draw it, put it down. So the answers come from nature. And it's like they're not his thoughts. They are literally not his thoughts, but they come from somewhere to us.
Right, let me build on that, please.
Yeah.
So, number one, you've not mentioned this Nigerian guy to me before, as far as I remember.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
Because
I'll put a link in. I've got a link somewhere, so I'll put a
you
link
put
in
a
the
link to the ether in the last one, but I didn't. I'll confess I've been busy. I didn't actually watch the whole.
I like that guy as well. He's quite an interesting guy. But yeah, go on. Sorry, you were going
Okay,
to add.
no, it's okay. Going back to where did he get the idea from? Like the
Yeah.
shaman saying the trees, but this guy specifically saying, I woke up with the idea. Right. So QHHT, Dolores Cannon. This is not supposed to be a QHHT podcast as such,
But it's part of the woo.
but it's part of the woo, and I don't want to take it down that route today because we will talk about it and it will keep coming back because this is what's important in my life now. So I will keep bringing it back because you'll then say something that triggers me in a good way there. So Dolores, who uncovered this, says that through the thousands, and we see it also through our practices, through the thousands and thousands of sessions she did with people, you've experienced it yourself, that you access what she called the subconscious, which could be called the source of all things, which could be called the oversoul, which could be called God, which could be called your higher self. It doesn't really matter what the label is. And she says that the information that she calls them they as well, whoever this energy is, she calls they or the subconscious. And she said on many, many occasions, she's obviously passed over now as Dolores, but she said on many occasions they told her through her subjects under the deep level hypnosis. And it could be somebody in Russia and somebody in China and somebody in Arkansas, America. And they would say, and they would separate months apart. And they would give her the same pieces of the information. They would say, we seed, we there is a pact of non-interference. There's like the prime directive in Star Trek, which is like the Starfleet. Starfleet cannot interfere in a pre-warp culture, right? So they operating at a galactic, universal, energetic level have a similar directive. It's an analogy you understand, and the directive is they can't interfere, particularly with the Earth, because Earth is a planet of free will. So anybody who comes to Earth does the deal is done that you come here and you experience free will. The corollary of that is that they cannot interfere, but they can influence. And there's a fine line, like with anything. I mean, I'm a lawyer by training. I understand this intuitively, like what's interference and what's not interference, right? So that's all these waves of volunteers that we've talked about that it's not the time to get into. That's a way of interfering without interfering. Yeah.
Yeah.
You put people in from the inside to change the energy, to change the direction, and it came
And that's
up.
why we can't remember our purpose, because that would be interfering, but we grow into our purpose. Yeah.
And then if we'd want to, we can try to uncover that knowledge, and we can sometimes dissolve the veil of forgetfulness. And so the paradigm example was like the nuclear bombs, and why the waves of volunteers started to come post Second World War, because we developed nuclear energy, which we were supposed to have, but not in the timeline that we had. And the problem is that we developed it first largely for a weapon, therefore it's always got this energy of fear and negativity, and it will never be the boon, to go back to the Matthew, it will never be the boon to humanity that had we discovered it in the right way at the right time, it would have been. So it's always tainted with that energy. It's the information she's got. I'm only like reporting here, and that's what she would
Yeah.
say. She was a reporter. And then they realized that so they can't come. They can never came, and so every culture has always got like the knowledge giver in the culture. So the fire bringer, the
Mm,
person who showed a civilization how to farm, agriculture, and things. We haven't got time to go into it, but all cultures have this knowledge giver, this gift bringer that
mm,
kicks on the development of the society for the greater good or ill, because of planet free will. So you can give the knowledge of fire, like some of the ancient Aboriginal cultures have it, bringer of fire, and you can use fire to cook, for warmth, for light, and you can use it to kill.
mm.
So the gift is fire. The knowledge is given freely as a gift. It's a
Yeah.
one-time gift, and what we, as the humans on this planet, do with it is down to our free will. And quite
Hmm.
often, if you actually think about it, we pervert it.
More often than not, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
So what they do now, they just say they've said to her, they put the information that could generate the next evolution of human society just into the ether.
Hmm.
She doesn't use the word ether, she uses the atmosphere, but it's
Yeah.
the same thing. And the people who are meant to receive it or who are open to receive it or
Yeah.
who will receive, they receive it and it just comes to them. And then, because they don't care who does it.
No.
Like this
No.
development you're talking about, generating electricity from whatever it is in the ether or the air or the atmosphere or whatever, that sounds to me like a source of like free or cheap energy potentially.
That is. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it is. Yeah.
that doesn't burn fossil fuels. And
No, it doesn't.
this guy's just woken up and
With
drawn
the
it.
design, yeah. Yeah, there was two. Yeah, there are two of them that did it. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting story.
And
Yeah,
it's open, but the point that they've said is
yeah.
that this information, when it's seeded into the ether, is available for anybody on the
Just backing
planet.
up what
Anybody.
Dolores has said, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why sometimes you can get multiple people making the same discoveries.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
he doesn't have a clue where he's got it from, right? So
No,
that's
not a
like
clue.
fits
Just
into
wakes up and it's
yeah.
there. That's his words, directly his words. I just wake up and it's there and I just draw it.
Oh, I'm
And
getting
then I
kind of
take it to people that can make it. He can't even make it. It's not,
well, he can't. He's just got the concept.
no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
he's got the concept. Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
problem. So I'm like getting chills at this because this is
Mm.
just in line with everything I've been like learning or whatever. And
Mm.
also like like writing the poetry that I write. Sometimes I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like literally, there'll just be bang, and some of it will just go. It takes like 2 minutes, and it's literally a process of writing it down on a
Yeah.
computer these days, and
Mm.
it just comes out. Some of them you have to work at, but
Yeah.
like, where's that come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it comes back to like the car scenario and the violent thoughts scenario. Possibly what's happening is, or probably what's happening is, there's an undercurrent of energy.
Yeah.
And this is why we've got to be really careful with the media we consume, with the information we consume, with the belief systems that we adopt. Because if we adopt a belief system that's based around fear, we're going to be fearful.
Yeah.
And
It's again coming back to self-awareness is why awareness is so important, isn't it? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the fear or the anger or the frustration or whatever it is, the anxiety of what's going on. And then you've got to check in and go, well, is this me? Is this my fear? Is this my anxiety? Is this my anger? Like, where's it coming from? Is it me or is it an external source influencing me? Going back to what we said in the last video about your experience in the wood and my experience in the water this week, stepping into the water and feeling fearful of the water. My first impression was that I was fearful of stepping into the lake. But on reflection, could it have been the water communicating with me about fears in other areas of my life? And it's just bringing the awareness back to it because we can get so caught up in what's right in front of us or what we think's right in front of us. Your example in the car and that bloke cutting in, that's right in front of you and you can get caught up in that. But like you said, it could have been any number of people around you that was just like frustrated about being stuck in traffic. So it's bringing that awareness to our lives, to our thoughts particularly, or the thoughts rather than our thoughts because it's arguable whether they're ours or not. And it's that awareness that changes the reality that we're in. Because if we start to realize actually it's not my fear, it's not my anger, it's not my anxiety, then you can change how you react to it. And that's key and pivotal at this moment in time, I believe. So yeah.
Or even if you take it, because not everybody's going to see the big picture like you see it.
Mm,
So
mm,
from what you just said, even if you just take this as whether we're at a key moment in time, whether we're all here to benefit everybody else or not, or you could just take it as an individual.
mm,
You really want to go through life feeling like shit?
mm.
No. So in this scenario, it's worth it from the individual's point of view saying, is this really my thought or am I just adopting something of a,
Yeah.
you know, and if I can observe that and let it go, I'll feel better.
Mm,
But then you
yeah.
see that comes down to like, how would you do a revolution? One
Mm,
person at a time.
yeah. Yeah.
If we all just changed, like, if every single, they think there's like more like 10 billion people on the planet now. They think they counted it wrong, apparently. My son
I'd
told
say
me
there's.
the other day.
I reckon it's lower than what they say, but it's fine.
Well, doesn't matter. Let's just say
However many, there's a
yeah,
lot.
there's multiple billions of people on the planet. If every single one of those billion people were to make this one shift,
Mm,
that's a revolution, isn't it?
yeah.
And that's a
Or an
completely different,
evolution.
or
It's an
evolution. It's a completely
evolution.
different. Yeah, so we don't even need to. I mean, I'm not trying to pick you up on this, and I'm sure it might come across as I am, but I'm not. I'm just trying to say,
Yeah,
for
no.
the benefit of the person watching this, thinking, well, what the F's that got to do with me? Well, what it's
It's got
got to do with you,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, it's got everything to do with you. How do you want to feel every day?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you want to go through your life? Do you want to smile? Or
Micro to macro, isn't it? Micro to macro. Like I say when I'm teaching, it's like what you learn on the mat, what you learn on the mat and experience on the mat. You can use that as a mirror into your outside external world, into what you do in your conversations and actions and thoughts and stuff off the mat. And it's no different. The little changes that you made as an individual in your life, like you just said, if everybody makes that, but even if you make a change to yourself and people see that change, then they'll be like, oh, that's a different way of being. I didn't, and then how do you do that? And then you can have that kind of conversation. And it's like, well, I just did this to change the way I thought. Oh, I'll try that. And even if it's that, it's one on one on one on, or just each person just coming to a realization scattered around the world. And then, like you said,
well,
the
even
more people do that,
you don't
yeah.
even necessarily need. You don't even need to have like that conversation about what's
Ah,
different. You just
mm,
interact with people differently, and they pick up on it.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like this thing about if you ever tried like one of my most amusing games in London is to say hello to people on the tube,
Mm,
say good morning to them and see what they do. And
punch you in the face.
yeah, going back to violent thoughts. But if you, it's like this thing, if you smile at somebody, they tend to smile back at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this. I have a resting bitch face. I know I do because I
Mm,
tend to spend a lot of time somewhere else. I'm not
mm.
necessarily unhappy. I'm just like,
Yeah, just
whatever.
relaxed.
Yeah, but I can appreciate that somebody looks at me and think, what a miserable tosser. So if you, but you smile at somebody, they smile back. So I would say it's not even, if you're changing your behavior consciously, if you have the awareness and something inside you changes, like,
The
yeah.
frequency changes, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you interact with people and then they interact back with you. I will give you an example. And
Mm,
it's also a bit of a woo-woo example, a bit of a weird example, but kind of rooted in reality. So, I played golf yesterday and I played with somebody who's a stranger to me amongst other people. And I've seen, it's like in an organized thing, and I've seen this guy before. So I've seen him, I've like assessed his energy, if you like. And my assessment, I understand, was he's okay.
mhm.
I've assessed others, and it's like, right. And
I
all of
wonder if
this,
they're watching.
pardon?
I wonder if they're watching.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about like just on
Yeah.
an intuitive,
Yeah.
unconscious level, right? And then
Yeah.
'cause I
Yeah.
realized this about this guy after yesterday. So I also realize I make a lot of judgments, as do we all. So I start playing with him, and there's certain topics of conversation that we all have, in our daily lives when it's polite conversation and all of that. And we're talking about this, that, and the other. And it's about halfway round this round. It's 2 hours in. And he finally goes, so what do you actually do for a living? And I start to tell him I'm a commercial lawyer, but I'm also a hypnotherapist. I was a bit like hesitant like that, thinking I'm on a golf day with a guy. I think he's like a former tax advisor. I'm thinking, oh, what's he gonna make? And like goes back, it actually goes back to what we were saying. It goes back to some of the things you've been saying recently. It's like, it goes back to what we said last week. It's like, oh God, I'm gonna tell him I'm like training to transition and training to be a hypnotherapist. What's he gonna think of me? And I thought, oh, I'll just tell him, and then what he meant. And like, so when I say I'm a lawyer, it's like, oh right, yeah, yeah. You got any clients on retainer? Well, not really. They don't work like that. It's more dispute. Oh, okay, interest. And I go, and I'm also a hypnotherapist. And he goes, oh, now that is interesting. I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." And he goes, oh, what do you help people with, like anxiety and stuff? I'm like, well, yeah, but everything. And then he said, well, how did you get into that? So I started telling him a bit of the story. Um, and then I said something. I'm probably going to forget exactly what it was that I said, but I said something along the lines of, well, it doesn't matter what I said. He said, oh, yeah, it's all energy, isn't it? And if you're sensitive like I am and you can pick up on other people's energy. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, yeah, and when I was at work, I was like trying to be really intuitive and there's energies. And then he starts talking about the pyramids and the
Mhm.
chambers under the pyramids and the sacred sites and Machu Picchu. And I'm like, and we had an amazing, like, only a half an hour discussion, and we will pick up on it another time, I'm absolutely sure. And I'm like, I wouldn't have guessed that.
He's a woo-woo weirdo.
He's a woo-woo weirdo. And I'm
They
like,
walk among us,
hidden in plain sight, like we were saying
hidden in
last
plain
night.
sight.
And I'm like, I've just made massive judgments about this guy.
Mm,
Like, from the point of view of myself, right? Should I tell him anything to do with the woo
mm,
or spirituality or anything?
yeah.
Because he's just gonna poo-poo. He's gonna poo-poo the woo-woo, right? And then you're like, what? So I'm not quite sure what the point I'm trying to make is here, but
I wonder what urged you to. You could tell his disappointment in your lawyer statement. Is that what urged you to say I'm a hypnotherapist, and or was it just again was it just a random whew, divine
I think
interception to say it, Steve,
I
say it.
think it was all. I think it kind of came out all at once. I'm like a lawyer and I'm also a hypnotherapist. And then he says, "Well, there's a law. What type of law?" Because that's what everybody always asks, right?
Yeah.
Probably because they've been divorced or they bought a house, and it's obviously not what I do.
Mm,
And he was just not engaged on that.
yeah.
Just going through the routine, and then he was like, "But what about this hypnotherapy?" So I've probably said it slightly wrong. Well, what about
Oh,
this
yeah.
hypnotherapy? What? And like, then it just snowballed from there, from nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think the point I'm making here is self-awareness is also about the judgments that we make about people
Mm,
and the snap judgments that we make. Just like the guy cutting in front of me, it's like I made a judgment about him, and I was making a judgment about this guy. But then the other point I'm making is that we assume too much, don't we? I think that's what I want to say. We assume far too much, and it goes back to people not seeing your gifts, which I don't think got recorded, because that's one of the things we we're
mm,
talking about. That,
yeah.
oh, that is definitely one of the things we're talking about. There's 5 minutes left now. How you and I are both a little resistant to receiving compliments.
Mm,
Like, you look very tanned, Steve, last night. And I'm like, yeah, it's all fake, Matt, because that's a deflection technique, isn't it?
hmm
Using humor to deflect. The fact that you've given me what I presume was a compliment, and it's like, no, I'm going to back that away. And it's like,
Yeah.
why can't we take the compliment?
Why can't we just accept it? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it comes back to what we were talking about last week about how we're all really thinking about ourselves and not other people. So
Hmm
why are we worrying about what other people think?
Mm,
And this is all connected to that in the sense that why am I worried about what he thinks about what I do for a living or don't do for a living and where I'm now going with that?
yeah.
What's my problem with that? And why would I
Yeah.
assume that he's not interested in that because he's a golfer?
Mm.
That was my
You're,
assumption.
and the funny thing is, you're a golfer too, and you are interested in it. I think you made the statement about lawyers as well. You said like, oh, well, I'm a lawyer, but there's not many people that do lawyer and yoga at the same time. And it's like, well, hang on.
Andy,
You got Andy right next to you, or like the week
who
after.
was
And
your
it's like, hang on.
who was
There's
your
three people in this room, and
supervisor?
two of you are lawyers.
Who was your supervisor for 4 months
Yeah,
while you were a trainee? So there you go.
exactly. So yeah.
Hmm.
Those, yeah.
I'm not quite sure where that comes into the woo. I think where that comes into the woo is this whole thing about everything being connected and how if
Everything being connected, and it's a little bit of that, like we said in the last video, with if only we could see ourselves through other people's eyes, because you're fearful about saying who you are and what you believe in because you're fearful of the judgment. But like other people that see that and go, you do amazing work and you're doing a fantastic job. But if you saw that yourself, which you do to a level, but it's that extra layer of actually I'm embracing my gift and I'm embracing my power, then you would be like, this is what I do. You probably lead with that more often than not, rather than leading with the lawyer. And then you'll be like, it took a long time to me to go from I'm a yoga teacher for I work on building sites. I'm a yoga teacher, and then it's like, well, actually, I prefer yoga, so I'm more of a yoga teacher, and I used to work on building sites or whatever like that. It's having that self belief in yourself and seeing yourself for the awesomeness that you are, not just you, me, everybody, because we're the only ones that get in our way. And if we could just look at ourselves through other people's eyes, then we'd start to realize how fucking great we are, really.
we are
There's
majorities of one.
mandatory swear word at the end there.
I don't know how many we've deployed this 40 minutes, but we've had 80 minutes at it, so we've probably deployed a rather a lot.
I think there were quite a few in the first one, actually, I do believe, but
Yeah.
twats and dickheads and all sorts. Yeah.
Oh, well, we started this one with dickheads talking shite, didn't we? So
It
there you
did.
go.
That opened up with
Started
a
as
dick.
we're meant to go on. Although I don't consider either of those to be, I mean, that's what I consider. So I don't consider them to be swearing anymore.
No, no, no.
Um, in fact, shite, I don't know whether I ever told you this, shite is one of my favorite words because
Mm.
of how evocative it is.
Mm. It's a good word. Love and light and all the shite.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
Go
So
back to episode 1, I think that was said in actually.
yeah, that's true. So, bringing this to a close in the 2 minutes that's left, we almost touched on everything that we talked about the first time, but
Yeah.
I think it might be nice to leave it with this majority of one concept that seems to be developing in that we are a majority of one, and there is only one of each of us amongst billions of others. But actually, if the majority of one were to change for the better, if each one of us did that, there would be a ripple effect at least, if not a massive evolution. And it's not that hard. It comes from awareness,
Evolution rather than revolution.
which
Yeah.
is fine, yeah. And
Revolution means to revolve. Evolution means to. But also that concept of oneness, in Lakesh Alakin, you are another me.
mm,
I am you, and you are another me. In Lakesh Alakin. Yeah, that continues that because the changes you make in yourself ripple into other people by default because of the collective consciousness that we're all evolved of. So your thoughts, your actions, just like we can pick up on violent thoughts and anger and anxiety from others, the positive vibes that we put up, they'll pick up on those as well.
so when everybody else is thinking, what a wanker for cutting in the
Mm.
sheriff traffic, we should go, no, maybe he's in a rush. We'll
Yeah.
let him get away with it and just
Om
peace.
Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. There you go. May peace be with everybody, or something like that. There you
Well,
go.
I think that's a pretty good place to leave it. May
Mm.
peace be with everybody.
Mm.
And try and make somebody smile today.
Yeah, at least one person,
Yeah, see
even
if
if
you can
it's
get a
yourself.
smile. Yeah, yeah, well,
It's yourself. It's a good
yeah.
start.
See if you can
Yeah,
make yourself smile today.
yeah, yeah.
That's probably a good challenge because if you do, you probably make somebody else smile. What was the
Much
phrase?
love.
Much love
In
to you.
Lakesh Alakin. There you go.
Ciao.